In this session I want to have a few words about Porter's five forces, and more specifically about buyer power within the five forces model. I'm going to look at some general comments about the place of the buyer within this system. Some very general comments, not very sophisticated, but give some background nonetheless. So let's start by looking at the bargaining power of customers. And we know that customers compete within industry, and they do this by forcing down prices. Well, that's a bit dramatic. What they actually do is they bargain for prices. They facilitate the market. They vote for products. By buying them, they're voting for the product. They're saying, we like the product, we like the price, we like the conditions of this product, we like the after-sales service, we like the marketing, etc., etc. We like it. We're buying it. That's a vote in favour. They could have voted with their feet and walked away and left it, in which case they're rejecting it. And in so doing, they're signalling the retailer that they don't like what the retailer has done, and in that way they are forcing down the price. So it's the market. It's the way the market works. They also bargain for higher quality and more services. This is really developed over the last few decades, I suppose, the last 2 or 3 decades in particular, when after-sales services become very important for many items, particularly more expensive household items and that sort of product. The customer is interested in the marketing of the thing, the image, the reputation of the company, the status of the product. It could be a designer label or whatever it is. And also the backup. If it goes wrong, what are the conditions? So they also bargain for quality and better service. This number 3 is very similar to number 1. They play off competitors against each other at the expense of industry profitability. Well, yes. If they buy the product, then the producer makes a profit. If they don't buy it, the producer doesn't make a profit. So power is with the customers, and they play off competitors one against the other. That's the name of the game. That's the capitalist system. That's how we as customers benefit, by playing off one against the other. They are competing for our limited resources, for our limited incomes, and they must satisfy our demands. So customer bargaining power is likely to be high under various conditions. For example, if the customers buy in large volume, clearly they will have more clout in the market. They'll have more power in the market. So if buyer concentration is high, the buyers will get better deals, more discounts and better terms and better conditions, because they are stronger. If they come together, they can use their strength as leverage for bargaining purposes. If they're just individuals placing small orders, then they are weak and they can't extract perhaps the best deal. Now, what are the bargaining power of customers? Well, they're various. For example, the supplying industry, if it's composed of a large number of small operators, then the small operators will be competing amongst themselves, competing aggressively perhaps on the basis of price or image or quality or backup or whatever it is. So customer power will be strong when the suppliers are weak. If the buyer has a choice between which supplier to choose, then the suppliers are weakened by the buyer choice. If the product is undifferentiated, if all the products are the same, and if they can be replaced by substitutes, then the consumers are in a fairly strong position. If there's nothing special about the product, if all the products are identical, if they're all undifferentiated, what would make the customer want to buy one particular one? So the sellers have a problem. For example, petrol. For example, unleaded petrol. Unleaded petrol is all the same, essentially. It has to be for technical reasons. It goes into different types of cars. So it must be roughly the same, I guess. That means that if one seller puts its price up by a lot, that seller will sell virtually nothing. Customers will move to a different one. Why should they buy it from that person? But if all of the petrol retailers put the price up by some large amount, then customers will start to look for alternatives to having cars. They might go by train or by bus, or might buy bicycles. They'll find some alternative. Staple products. Petrol's a staple product. Staple products, petrol, food, bread, for example, water, salt. They're all generally the same. And so the deciding factor on which product to be bought will be down to the price. So the price is important for that type of product. Customers might be able to produce the products themselves. If the customer doesn't think they're getting value, then they might think, well, produce it ourselves. For example, the customers might grow vegetables. If they find that the price of vegetables in the shops are very expensive, they get an allotment, or they cultivate the back garden, or a window box, or to do something. They start growing vegetables. Because vegetables are easy to grow, so why pay a large sum of money in the shop if they can be grown cheaply at home? If customers know the production cost, and if they know the price of the product, they might start producing it themselves. For example, if you know that the price of a CD, let's say a music CD, is whatever, £10, £13, £15, whatever it is. However, you know that the cost of a CD in the shop nowadays is very cheap, 50p, 30p, whatever. So there is an incentive there to copy. Of course, it's illegal and it's immoral. But on economic grounds, there is an incentive, and that's why it happens. If that incentive was not there, copying would not happen. It's actually misplaced, because the people who copy are not being fair, because they're copying the physical entity, they're copying the CD. Where of course the real value is not the CD, it's not the physical thing, it's the service that's on the CD, it's the music and all the time and effort it took to make the music or to make the video. That's the service. And that, of course, is much more expensive. That's why it cost a bit more than 50p. So, to reiterate, just in case you haven't got the point, it is illegal and it is immoral. It is wrong. You are stealing. But there you go. Okay. Customers can play off suppliers against each other, forcing down the price of components. Sometimes products come in parts. If you're good at car mechanics, perhaps you're able to buy the components cheap and maintain the car. That might mean that you don't go to the garage to get it maintained. Let's run across these and see what we've got. We started by looking at customers buying in large volume. Well, yes, that will give customers power. We've got the supplying industry comprising of a large number of small operators. If there's a large number of sellers, they compete amongst themselves, driving down the price. Excuse me. The product is undifferentiated. It can be replaced by substitutes. give you the example of petrol. The customers may be able to produce the product themselves, sometimes illegally, but we talked about that. Customers may know the production cost of the product. Number 4 was about growing vegetables. Number 5 is about making products themselves. And an example of all of these that is often kicked around in the books are supermarkets. Customers play off supermarkets against each other, forcing down the price of some food. Supermarkets must get the price right. If the price is too high, the customers will vote with their feet and leave it, in which case the supermarket has to cut the price and have a sale or 2 for the price of 1 or whatever it is. If they get the price too low, it'll be sold out and they won't make as much as they could have made had they got the price correct in the first place. So those are a few comments about buyer power within the Porter 5 Forces framework. I hope those are of some use, some background to buyer power. I'll produce some more to cover the other forces, so keep an eye out for those. Thanks for listening.